Java API for JSON. So before this standard was introduced, there were several JSON packages out there, but those were not standardized. Now Java API for JSON is standardized, and this is something the app server has to support. Okay. All right. So what is and why JSON? I assume everyone is aware what JSON is all about. So I have a one-page introduction to it for those folks who are not really familiar with the JSON. And in this API, there are two different kinds of APIs: Object Model API and Streaming API. So we're going to talk about these two in a bit more detail. So what is and why JSON? JSON is a data exchange format widely used in web services, especially RESTful-based web services and other connected applications, because it's open standard and it's easy to read and write. Okay, as I said before, RESTful-based web services use JSON extensively as a preferred data exchange format over XML. Two reasons. One is JSON is more compact than XML, so you could send the data that is smaller in size than comparable XML, and it's easier to deal with in JavaScript than XML. So this is probably the bigger reason. Most of the case, the client side is written in JavaScript code, and JSON is the data format. JSON is actually in JavaScript. JSON is actually a native type. Okay, so once you got the JSON string, you can create a JavaScript object from it right away. Okay, so it's a lot more efficient to deal with in JavaScript code than XML. Okay, so in Java API for JSON, there are two aspects for generating and parsing JSON data. So there are two programming models similar to XML parsing. One is called the object model, and the other one is called the streaming model. Object model works like a DOM API in XML parsing, so it's a high-level API and it's easy to use and compared to streaming model. Streaming model is similar to stacks, the STAX in XML parsing, so it's considered lower level than object model, but more efficient than object model. So we'll see why those are the cases in the following slides. So let's talk about the object model API first. So just like a DOM API in the XML parsing, it creates a tree that represents that JSON data in memory. Okay, and then tree can be navigated, analyzed, and modified. So this is more flexible, and it allows access to the complete contents of the tree. Okay, but because you have to read the whole tree before you can access it, it is slower than streaming model. Okay, and it will require more memory space. And the object model generates JSON output by navigating the entire tree at once. Okay, so let's talk about the classes that are used in object model API. So there is what is called the JSON object. This object, this class, JSON object class, represent this JSON object value. So you're basically talking about the unordered collection of 0 or more name value pairs. Okay. The values could be JSON object, JSON array, JSON string, JSON number, JSON value true, JSON value false, and JSON value null, and things like that. And these values can be accessed through accessor method. So let's see the code. So how you're going to create this JSON object in object model? You can read the JSON file, of course, or you can create from scratch. So in order to read the JSON, file, you are going to use JSON reader and read object method. So you're going to create the JSON reader from JSON object, and you can provide the file reader object reading JSON data.txt file. And once you got the JSON reader, then you can read the object. Okay, so you got the JSON object as a result. Or you can create your JSON object from scratch. So you can say JSON create object builder, and then you're going to call build. So it will basically return JSON object which is empty. Okay, and then you can add things. Okay, so we're going to actually see how we can add the items into this JSON object. How to write a JSON object? So you are going to use JSON writer and write method of it. Okay, so basically here we are going to call the JSON object. Suppose you got a JSON object that captures the JSON data, and you can write that object, okay, by using write object method of JSON writer. Okay. Now JSON writer is basically something that you can create from the stream. Okay, so here we have a string writer, and then we have a JSON writer from it. Okay, so it's like a chaining of the stream, right? And then we can write a JSON object to it. Okay, and then the result is going to be, and then if you actually create the string from it, then you know that this is going to be a string which you can print out. So this is how you are going to create an object. So here I create the I call create object builder. So in the object builder is an object to which you can call add method. So here I'm adding first entry, first name Duke, and the second entry, third entry, and blah blah blah. And you can also add an array. So in this case, you're going to create array builder, and inside this is going to be an array object. Okay, so we're going to actually try these things in the hands-on lab. All right, so let's try the object model API. So let's take a look at the lab documentation. Okay, so we are going to build and run JSON model application. So it's going to run like this. So let's try this guy. Okay, I haven't. Create the working set, and I'm going to import. And we are going to run. So basically, let me explain what's happening first. So you're going to see this screen. So you are going to create a JSON object, and then you are going to see JSON is created and is output, and then we are going to parse. Okay, so it's parsed like this. Okay, so if you take a look at the code, okay, so let me see whether that project is retrieved. Okay, so I'm going to JSON model. So right click, run as. This is the run on server. Okay, so I'm going to create a JSON object and JSON output, then I parse JSON like this. Okay, so let's take a look at the lab documentation. So this is the index XHTML file that gets displayed. Okay, so it will capture whatever you typed in, and then it's going to call build JSON method of object model JSF bean. So we are going to go object model bean, build JSON, and here. So this is the case that we are, building, create object builder, then we are adding these things. Okay, and then we also add the array builder. So if you take a look at the so this is what gets created. Okay, so this represent JSON object. This JSON object, once this is done, will actually create this JSON data. Okay. All right. So that is for build JSON, and then we write it out. Okay. So we write that out. Okay. And let's see. And then the when we call parse. Okay. So this is the case that we parse it. Okay. Then we're going to actually call parse JSON. So this is now we are going to take a look at the parse method, parse JSON method in the same class. Okay. So here we are just parsing it. We create so basically in this case we are just calling print tree here, and we get the we basically see what is the object type. So it could be object type or array type or string type or number type, and true, false, and null. So those are the types of the values, right? Okay, and if it is an object, then we are going to actually call dump tree row, and we just kind of display things. Okay. So dump tree row is actually this code. Okay. All right. This is the parsed value. So once you actually parse it, this is what gets displayed through this HTML file. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you guys about 12 minutes to try this exercise. The other API model is streaming API, so that's what we are going to learn. So it uses event-based parser that reads the JSON data one element at a time. So again, this is like a stacks in XML parsing, in which it's basically you're reading one item each time, and each item is actually generating an event. Okay, so parser generate events and stops for processing when when array begins or ends, and when it finds a key or when it finds a value. So every time it actually finds an object, array, or whatever, it will give you an event. Okay. Each element can be processed or discarded by application code. So you as an application developer can pick and choose whether you want to access the data or not. Okay. So this approach is adequate for local processing, in which processing of an element does not require information for the rest of the data. So this is basically streaming model. So streaming model generates JSON output to a given stream by making a function call with one element at a time. So let's take a look at the code. So here we are going to create a parser. Okay, so we call create parser. So basically we are parsing a file that contains JSON data, and we got the JSON parser, and then you can call hasNext method. Okay. Basically it lets you know there is a next item, and then you can call next to actually retrieve it, and that is going to be JSON parser event type. And this event type could be something like a start array, end array, start object, end object, value false, value full, and value true, and things like this, or key name. Okay, so you are basically receiving this event, and you are going to get the data only when you the data that you are interested. Okay, so for example, you are going to say parser get string. Okay, So if it is a value number, then you're going to actually get parser get string as a string type. Okay. And here we are going to I'm sorry, yeah, so I actually should explain this one. Is the value true if any of this, we're going to actually get the event to string value. Same thing over here. Okay. All right. And so this is for parsing and streaming API. And this is for generation. So you're going to use a generator, JSON generator, and here you're going to write start object, and at the end you're going to end, and basically the start object and adding these things, and then start array and starting object and end, starting object and end. So these two are basically end of the starting object. Okay, so you're basically using start object and start the array, and then add the data. Okay. All right, so that is exercise 2. So let's take a look at exercise 2. So here we are going to run JSON streaming application. So let's run this guy. So enter your information and write a JSON object or file. So this is what gets created. Okay, so let's take a look at the code. Oh, so we have one more to go. So we can now parse from a file, and this is what you get. So this is event type, and this is the actual data, and this is event number. So if you take a look at the code, this is what gets displayed when the application is run, just getting the data, and it's calling write JSON. So we're going to take a look at the write JSON method. So write JSON method here, we are basically create generator, and then we are just using write method and write start array, and then whatever value that we have received from the user will be used as the value of these keys. Okay. All right, so that is that. And the files written is displayed. So in this case, the button is going to call parse JSON. So this is actually from a text area, and then it's going to call parse JSON. So parse is going to just parse. So this is the event model parsing, this guy. So this is the code that you have seen before, right? So for any of this type, we are going to convert it into string. Okay, and then break. For these things, we are going to get the string, and parser get string. So asking the parser to give me another string from the queue. Okay, and then break. Okay, so I'll give you guys about 7 minutes to finish this exercise.